All right. I apologize, guys, for the last live stream. I had a brief family emergency I had to go handle, so I took myself off camera and let the trial keep rolling. Well, in the process of there, one of my children must have hit the spacebar on my keyboard and paused the stream, and so that's why it was on pause for however long it was. So I apologize for that. So I'm going to back up to the very end of day 2, part 1, so that we can get this witness's testimony, because his testimony is split up in 2 days, end of one day and beginning of another. So, or end of the morning, beginning of after lunch, but it's 2 separate videos or streams. So we're going to start that over, and then start over that witness's testimony, and then take off where we left off. So once again, I apologize. Secondly, I appreciate you guys coming and checking out the channel. This is Stephen A. on air. I'm Stephen A., your host. This is the Court of No Appeals. We deliberate one time and one time only. There's no appeals in this court. So thank you for joining. I appreciate you. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you could. Just a small channel trying to grow into this big world. So I appreciate you once again. I say that a lot, but it's very true. Very, very true. Without you, I would be nothing and I wouldn't exist. So once again, without further ado, let's get into it and check her out.
You just solemnly swear the testimony you shall give in the case now before the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Come on up here and have a seat. We appreciate you being here. As long as you can keep that mic in front of you at all times, we can make a good record and we'll all be able to hear. Thank you. Counsel.
Good morning. If you could state your name for the record.
My name is Scott Larson, Larson.
What is your occupation?
I am a forensic toxicologist.
Briefly tell us what that means.
Forensic toxicology is the field of testing biological specimens for drugs, alcohol, and poisons.
I want to talk about what kind of training and education is required for this position. Can you briefly go through your educational background?
Yes, I have a bachelor's degree in science in biology and another bachelor of science in medical technology and master's degree in pharmaceutical sciences.
How long have you been a forensic toxicologist?
For just over 20 years.
Does it require, you just listed the degrees that you have, does it require those degrees, the job?
Some base level science degree is necessary, yes.
Does your specific job title require any certifications?
I've been board certified by the American Board of Forensic Toxicology since 2010, and that's one of the requirements at my employment.
To keep that board certification, do you have to do some kind of continuing education requirements every year, anything like that?
Yes, I've been doing continuing education over the course of my entire career, but specifically, the board certification requires a minimum amount of continuing education per year that gets documented and turned in.
Or do you always keep current on that?
Yes.
Yeah, he probably has to.
When we're talking about your job, is it fair to call them tests, or do you run tests on blood or specimens for substances? How should I refer to that?
Tests or assays, yes.
About how many tests do you perform in a typical year?
Well, for my position at this point, what I do is review. So in terms of reviewing analytical data, I review roughly 12,500 cases per year.
At what point in your career did you actually do the testing?
Yes, for many years. I started as a bench toxicologist in my first job and did that for probably the first 10 to 15 years.
And now it sounds like your job is to review the tests that have been done by somebody else?
Yes.
And what are you reviewing for? What does that look like?
So the NMS, or my laboratory that I work for, we run basically in like an assembly line type system. And I'm on the last phase of that line. And what I look at is all of the initial documentation that gets turned into our laboratory, the chain of custody, which tracks the sample and what happens to the sample through its lifespan and the testing of the lab, all of the analytical screening data, confirmation data. I write the report and then release it to the agency that requested it.
Do you know what case we're here today about?
Yes.
Kacee Terry, does that name ring a bell?
Yes.
Did you review the testing that was done on the specimens involved in this case?
Yes, I released 2 reports on this case.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit,
Two.
State's Exhibit 13. You have a screen up there. Let me know when you're
Maybe an
able to see
amended
that.
report, or?
Sometimes it flickers a bit before it stays.
Came and went. There we go. It's on.
It'll, just takes a bit to warm up.
Do you see that?
I do, yes.
Do you recognize that?
I do, yes.
What is this?
This is a toxicology report released from our laboratory.
Is this something that you prepared or
Yep.
reviewed?
Yes,
Sorry, which of those prepared, reviewed, both?
both.
State moves to admit Exhibit 13.
No objection.
Court received States 13, wish to publish.
Yes, thank you.
Reviewed your own findings? Well, I guess you can review your own findings.
All right, before we get to, there's a box that says positive findings. I'm going to get to those in a second. If we can scroll down. I want to ask just briefly so the jury can understand when we're talking about, it says gray stopper, red stopper, different tubes and caps. I want to go through what those things mean. So I guess, can you explain the different tube types? Let's start there.
Yes, a gray stopper tube is, excuse me, a gray stopper tube is the recommended tube in forensic toxicology. It contains two different components, potassium oxalate and sodium fluoride. The potassium oxalate helps make it so the blood does not coagulate and stays in a liquid form. The sodium nitrate, or the sodium fluoride, I'm sorry, is an antibacterial, so that will eliminate bacterial growth within the blood sample. A red top tube or a red stopper tube does not contain anything, and that means there will be levels of coagulation in serum. A white cap plastic container, the specimen number 8, the liver came in, does not contain anything. It's just a normal plastic cup with no additives whatsoever.
Just a heads up, we're having
we-
also internet work done.
These different types of containers
Fiber
are
optic
used just
work or
because
whatever that is.
different tests have different recommendations on what additives are needed. So, but gray top tubes is standard in forensic
If I
toxicology.
lose.
Okay. If we look over a
connection,
few
go out,
columns, there's
for some
something
reason,
labeled
that's
matrix source, and there's hospital blood, femoral blood, and a few other things. What does hospital blood mean?
Hospital blood is just blood that is collected at the hospital prior to death.
Prior to death.
Yes.
What does femoral blood mean?
Femoral blood is postmortem blood, and that is what's called peripheral blood, and that would be collected from your femoral artery, which is in the kind of the upper section of your thigh.
When you're doing your testing or your review, does it make a difference whether something is hospital blood or femoral blood?
It does not make any difference in the testing. That's all done the same. It does make differences sometimes in your interpretation of those results.
So it looks like in this case we have both hospital blood and femoral blood.
Yes.
Why might that make a difference in results?
Well, there's a lot of different reasons. I think the first one is if you look under collection date and time, the hospital blood was drawn on August 12th of 2024, where the femoral blood was collected on August 16th. So with that 4-day window, there you would expect different results because your body could metabolize, things like that. So the hospital blood would be theoretically, we would receive results that would happen before any the hospital, anything that the hospital would have given them. You'd see those results more in the femoral blood, so you'd see differences in the results.
And then also you mentioned hospital blood is prior to death, femoral blood is after death. Can death make a difference in what's in, I guess, a sample?
Yes, it can. There's different types of activities that can happen in the body post-death. One of them is called postmortem redistribution, which is just the kind of diffusion of drugs from your central cavity throughout your body. So that can kind of increase the concentration of certain drugs. You sometimes can also get, in certain circumstances, increases or the artificial creation of ethanol from bacteria in your body using glucose to create alcohol. So things like, there are some differences, yes.
Okay. I want to scroll down on the exhibit. At the top, we see detailed findings, analysis, and comments. I want to go through this. The first one is naloxone. And I'm sorry, to clarify, these would be, I guess, tell us what exact findings these relate to. I guess, what patient are we talking about?
This would be from Kacee Terry.
Okay. What is naloxone?
Naloxone is a opiate antagonist drug that's used usually in hospitals, but now you can get it outside of hospital use to stop opiate overdoses.
And the result here was what?
It was presumptive positive. This is something that came up in our initial drug screen that is not part of normal confirmation. So it came up on a screen, but it was not confirmed.
Is naloxone typically given in a medical setting in certain circumstances?
Typically, yes. Many times if someone is kind of struggling, they will just, nowadays, hospitals will just automatically give naloxone based on the rise of opiate overdoses across the country.
So even if it's not confirmed that an opioid overdose is...
Yes, because it doesn't hurt anyone, so it'll either help them or it doesn't matter.
Okay. The next one we see down is oxycodone free. What is oxycodone, first of all?
Oxycodone is a narcotic analgesic used for pain relief.
And what does the free mean?
It can be found in two different ways in the body, either free, which means not bound by plasma, or conjugated. So we test for free, which is the normal forensic way, but we just like to clarify what we're reporting.
Okay. What was the result here for oxycodone?
It came up in the initial drug screen, and then it was then followed by a confirmation, and it was 34 nanograms per ml.
And what was the specimen source for that?
Hospital blood.
34 nanograms per milliliter. Help us understand what that result means.
34 nanograms per ml would be considered a therapeutic dose of oxycodone.
For anybody?
Yes, I mean, that would be like your normal prescription with a tablet. Obviously, there are different doctors would give different people different prescription amounts of the amount that they would take, but this falls within the range that you would expect.
So you would not expect 34 nanograms per milliliter to cause an overdose?
Not unless there's very unique circumstances.
We talked before about naloxone, which is given if an opioid overdose is suspected. Would that being given at the hospital lower the oxycodone level in the blood?
It wouldn't change the oxycodone level. What it would mean is the oxycodone would not be able to bind to the appropriate receptor because the naloxone would be blocking that receptor.
Okay, so this 34...
So it doesn't change the concentration, just whether it's activating the downstream effect in the body.
Okay. We're talking about Kacee Terry here. If she had been prescribed oxycodone and had been taking it for years, does that matter in your interpretation of these levels?
It would. There's something in the human body called tolerance that basically, the more you take any drug, your body creates a certain level of tolerance to some of the side effects from that. So that's one of the questions I always would ask a medical examiner or coroner that I'm working with, is if someone has a prescription for that, because if there is a prescription, especially for a long period of time, you would expect a level of tolerance.
Is that something that you did in this case?
I did not have any conversations with the medical examiner in this case.
Is this level consistent with what you would see in somebody prescribed oxycodone?
Yes.
Let's go down to oxymorphone -free. What is oxymorphone?
So oxymorphone is also a narcotic analgesic that you can get prescribed, but in addition to that, it is a metabolite of oxycodone. So as oxycodone is breaking down in your body, there's a different enzymatic pathways that break it down to that, and then to other later stage compounds, which is just a way for the body to get rid of the oxycodone out of your body.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a few questions just to make sure that I and the jury understand. You referenced something called a metabolite. What does that mean?
So when you take any drug, or most drugs, not every drug, but most drugs, your body will start breaking it down into similar compounds that are easier to clear out of the body.
So when we're talking about oxymorphone and oxycodone, is oxymorphone a separate drug that is given, or when you're talking about being
those training circumstances, that's when you went to work in Las Vegas as a medical examiner?
Correct.
Are there board certifications required to be a forensic medical examiner?
I'm not sure if they're required, but I am board certified in anatomic pathology and clinical pathology and forensic pathology.
What do you have to do to be board certified?
You should complete the training years, and then there are examinations that you need to take to be board certified.
So you took 3 probably really